Dallas, your winner here in Las Vegas, and post-game, I'm sure, will be offered maybe some clarity on why no first drive, but even shorter to drive. The pair getting it done. A big night for Dak, 268 and 4 touchdowns. Back in studio with the fellas, Joe Musso, Bryant McFadden, and Emery Hunt. Guys, this was a Cowboys team on Monday night that played to their preparation, not to their opponents. What did this performance tell you, and what did you make it at this moment in the schedule with the record where it is, Mac?
The Cowboys could mess around and get into the playoffs. That's what this performance told me. Now, offensively, I don't think there weren't any surprises, right? In terms of the balance, running the football, the Javonte, the passing game, Dak Prescott, the wide receivers. This is who they have been in terms of personnel.
Yeah.
But the bigger surprise for all of us was seeing these new moves come to a reality for the Dallas Cowboys on the defensive side. And that's why I said what I said. They can mess around and find a way to get into the playoffs because of their defense. They play against an offense that has been struggling. But it's one thing to play against an offense that has been struggling and to dominate them even more. And that has been a concern for the Dallas Cowboys. But what we saw, Quentin Williams had a sack and a half. He had a few hurries as well, a few pressures. When you look at Logan Wilson, he's showed up in the stat sheet. And the production from the guys that play with their hand in the dirt, it played to the production of the guys in the secondary. Deron Bland had an outstanding game, a much-needed bounce-back game for him, and he lived into the building. They were flying around. I mean, you look at the numbers offensively for the Raiders guys, they were 3 of 12 on third down. They had 236 yards of total offense. As a team, they had 27 rushing yards. Cowboys had 4 sacks. Ashton Genty had 6 carries for 7 yards. Yeah. And I don't expect to see that type of performance from the Dallas Cowboys week in and week out when they play against better teams. But if they can give us the necessary stops. Remember what I've been saying the entire time with the Cowboys. Oh, defensively, you got to get 4 stops. Just get 4.
Yeah.
They can get 4 now. They can get 4 now. So that's why if you're a Cowboy fan, you have to be elated about what you saw.
You're looking at 4. I'm thinking 6. You're probably going to still need 6 more wins, 10 wins to get into these NFC playoffs. I know a lot of football to be played, but this is the game that does offer you hope if you're Dallas.
This was the most complete game Dallas played all season long, regardless of the opponent, because to your point, we saw them do great things offensively. They were balanced on offense. Then on defense, inside the red zone, they shut those guys down. 1 for 3 scoring opportunities, so that was great inside the red zone. And it was the new acquisitions that made their presence felt. And so this was the first game we saw these guys collectively as a unit. Talk about Quentin Williams combined with Kenny Clark, the Marvian Overshone back there getting some reps as well. And once you start getting Chauvin Rouvel more acclimated on the back end, this defense will start to take shape because we saw them shut down the run. Mm-hmm. We saw them tightly cover wide receivers, and then we saw them make the plays that were there to be made on both sides of the ball. If there was an open opportunity outside of the one CeeDee Lamb drop late in the ball game, when the game was already decided, but when they had a chance to make a play, they made plays. And what was great about the passing game was the fact that it's cool to see George Pickens operate as a 1B or 1A, depending on how you look at it.
That man's 1-1.
And both of these guys have no problem with the other guy going off. And that's what you want to see when you have 2 elite talents at wide receiver. Then Ferguson did his thing, and then the run game did his thing to cap it off.
The absence of ego between those two, certainly. Now there is a 9-figure wide receiver there in CeeDee Lamb and a wide receiver who's going to need some money this offseason in George Pickens. Let's go there. It's 14 for 210 and 2 touchdowns combined. $144 of that is George Pickens. We've long been enamored with the skill set and what he does once he has the ball in his hands. How do you describe what makes this guy so special?
Just the lack of effort he displays when he's doing what he's doing. He's always cool, calm, collected when he's running routes. And just look at it. He just flowing through, going through the motions, casually cutting back crossfield and easily getting to the end zone. The thing about George Pickens, he was born to play wide receiver. You know how kids that play football, they got to find out a position. It was like George naturally was a wide receiver since day one. And he elevates the other guys on the offensive side. And if you're CeeDee Lamb, you're so excited to have a guy like George Pickens because there can't be a defender or defense that devotes extra attention to number 88. He opens up the running game. And now the relationship he has with Dak Prescott, and I think it was a blessing in disguise when CD was out with that injury because it forced Dak Prescott to create a relationship, passing relationship with George Pickens, because he ultimately was his go-to wide receiver at that time.
I want to get to their playoff projection here in just a moment, but maybe just a parting thought, something quick here, Emery, on Geno Smith and this Raiders team that really didn't show up for this one tonight. It gets you looking forward to what that position and what that franchise might look like moving forward. If they want to get off of Geno Smith, it's about $18.5 million in dead cap money. In today's NFL, very affordable to move on. Is that what would be best suited for the Raiders, to get back in the open market for a quarterback and wipe the slate clean?
It takes 2 to tango and 3 to jump rope, right? So not only do you need someone to take Geno Smith, but you also have to have an exit strategy of who you are going to acquire to replace Geno Smith. I think what needs to happen for Geno Smith, he has to be helped by his run game, which they can't do, probably because the offensive line isn't strong. Geno Smith just didn't forget how to play football, but he's playing bad football right now. And I think in order for that to happen, you got to have a clear plan of who you want to target in the draft or in free agency, but also you got to make sure whoever you have at quarterback next year has the table set for him to have success.
Yeah, it is going to be a premium pick there in the draft upcoming once again, but is this the class in which you want to select quarterback? Let's get back on the winning side here, because Mac, I felt like you wanted to talk about it. Playoff prognostication for this Dallas Cowboys team.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not loving the math for them. At 4-5-1, heading into week 12, you look at the schedule ahead here for the Cowboys. There is little, if any, room for error in this playoff picture. When you start doing the math on what those other teams are, Seahawks, Packers, 49ers, Lions could find their way back in, then you're talking about the Bears in the wild card hunt. Is this something that you could see happening, the stars aligning for the Cowboys?
It could. It's going to be very, very difficult because the bed they created. This is the bed they got to sleep in, even if they have no sheets. Right? This is what they did. They got costly games where they should have won. Arizona, they should have beat the Cardinals, right? Losing to Carolina in the fashion into which they lost. Losing it, you look at the tie with Green Bay. But there's still a window of hope because of they have the Philadelphia Eagles. We saw how close that ball game was without Quentin Williams, right? Their defense can continue to play, not to the level they played at tonight because of the opponent was definitely favorable. But if they can get the necessary stops and their offense do what they could do, no question.
Yeah, you're looking backwards. I'm looking forwards.
Philly,
keep rolling.
Kansas City,
Philly,
Detroit.
Kansas City, Detroit. I mean, the next three.
They got to live week by week. Can they beat Philly? Yes. Right?
Okay.
Can they beat Philly? No question. And if they beat Philly, can they beat Kansas City? Yes.
It's going to be a very hungry Kansas City Chiefs.
You get both of those teams at home. The one that I'm concerned with is Detroit.
At Detroit.
At Detroit.
Yeah. I think that one is more along, that's the one they could win. If they win Detroit, that to me sparks a run the rest of the way.
But for you to look at that Detroit game and say, can they win? They got to take care of their business against Philly and against Kansas City. If they can beat Philly, a divisional foe who they're familiar with, who they felt like we were very, very close in beating them week 1, and our team is better now. Defensively, they're better. The offense has a rhythm. Yes. So for me, this Sunday is a telling sign for the playoff aspirations for the Dallas Cowboys. Because I'm telling you, Joe, Emery, if they win, I don't know if that's a 1 o'clock game or a 4 p.m. game, but whenever that game is, if they win, we look at the Dallas Cowboys in a different light in terms of playoff implications.
Pretty simple. Win them all. Yeah. They get one done here on Monday night in prime time as Dallas is back in the win column. A look here at the most receiving yards in first 10 career games with the Cowboys. George Pickens, yeesh.
Rocket, I see you, baby.
More than Terrell.
9-8 and counting, and my favorite
first 10?
My favorite wrinkle to this whole thing. George Pickens got to come to the table for a new contract. His representation, David Mulugeta. Same representation for Mike Parsons. Jerry, shake that man's hand.
They never spoke before.
Shout out to Bob Hayes and family.